have already gotten a note taker, so we don't have to spend time doing that. And we have time now. Let's begin. Tim, are you going to do the intro or me?
I was going to let you do it.
All right. Let's see if I can take... you've got control. I'll just have to say next slide. All right. So next slide, please. When you registered for this meeting, you agreed to the note well. So this is a reminder that we're going to treat each other well. We don't have to agree with each other's ideas, but we have to treat each other with respect. And we need to make sure that if there's intellectual property that needs to be disclosed, that you do so, and that we're all going to follow the other IETF regulations and that make these things more productive. Next slide. Just a reminder for everybody who's remote, if you're not speaking or chairing, please use a headset and mute yourself. And the people who are in the room, please make sure you've brought up the on-site tool, because that is how we're going to manage the mic line. So if you're not logged into the Medico session, you can't get in line to speak. Next slide, please. These are the resources for today's session. The agenda and the slides are already been uploaded. The notepad is where the minutes are being taken. And Zulip is what's running the chat. And there's the two links for the on-site and the remote participants. Next slide. So I've got a pretty full agenda, but not as bad as it has been in the past. So this is the pass for agenda bashing. We're going to just talk about what the recent publications are, which things are in the RC editor. Next slide. Things that are with the ISG. Things that we have active discussion for today. Next slide. And the things that people would like us to consider adopting, one of which has got an ongoing adoption call or recently ended. So is there any agenda bash now that you've seen the agenda? Okay, hearing none, then I'll just jump. Go ahead.
Positive agenda bashing. I think almost all of these documents in that you say are in the editor's queue are actually published RFCs.
If you look at the agenda online, you'll see that the agenda online has a couple of those corrected.
Yeah.
So you're right. The list is a little bit longer than on the chair slides.
Correct. We were updating a whole bunch of stuff at the last minute there on that regard. So what I was going to hope to do is take agenda block 2 and 3 and say, these are the things that were recently published and with the RC editor. Are there any of those that need to be discussed? That was the answer I expected. Okay, so let's turn to the with the ISG, which is one slide back. I suspect most of these don't need discussed as well. Tim can, there you go, thank you. The composite signatures documents are with the ISG. Is there any updates that need to be shared with the group on either of the composite SIG documents?
Nope, they're good.
Okay, thank you. All right, Corey, the key usage CRL validation document. Is there anything we need to talk about with that one?
Isn't that in the editor's queue? Sorry.
I can't hear Corey at all.
Okay. Yeah.
There we go.
There you go.
Yeah. The mic
Woo!
works better when it's turned on. Yeah. So both the CRL key usage validation and the MAC address draft are both in the RFC editor's queue. So we incorporated all the feedback. Thank you, Deb, for the guidance you gave for both documents.
All right, cool. I was going to say the MAC address one. I didn't know the other one. All right. So that brings us to the active documents. And I think all of these have presentations or some form of status. So Mike, I think you're going to talk about CSR attestation.
I hope Hannes is talking about CSR attestation.
Ah, okay. Is that who's going to talk? Tim, can you bring up that slide deck?
Yeah, I've looked at the slides. I can do them if I thought Hannes was presenting.
Well, Hannes is in the room.
I'm not seeing them in the slide list. Am I missing it? Oh wait, no, it's a.
Did we just not submit them? That's entirely possible. That might have been a.
Oh wait, no, yeah, no, I see the I see the attestation key KU, but it's a different one.
That is a different one. Okay, I think we just never submitted slides. Oops, I will sit down.
Okay, so is there something you need to share? If we'll move you to the end of this so we can work with that while we're on the next document.
I mean, yes, this has had a lot of churn since Montreal. The design team was formed and
I
concluded
remember
we had an
that.
interim. There are lots of updates. Oops.
All right,
How do you want to handle this?
Please send us some slides through the data tracker. And
Okay.
I had a conversation with Hannes about the next document, the attestation freshness. And he says that was totally dependent on this first one. And since it is not.
Yeah, we have slides. Let me get off the camera and
all right, go do that. Okay. Corey, CERT Discovery, you want to do that one?
All right. This time, turn the mic on. Okay. All right. We're talking about. Oh, and here's the clicker. Can I control this?
Yep.
Yeah. Looks like it's all right. We're all good. Yeah. So I'll be talking about certificate discovery. There's our draft. We made some progress since our meeting in Montreal. We added David Hook as a co-author. One of the things we mentioned at Montreal is that we were no longer going to work on Chameleon. David Hook contributed significantly to that draft. We see certificate discovery as incorporating some of the benefits that you get from Chameleon, but without the complexity. And he brought a lot of good ideas there, and we think he'll also provide good ideas for this draft. So we wanted to bring him along. We fixed a couple ASN1 bugs that were pointed out by various folks, such as Russ on the list. Also, to avoid any, I guess, confusion in terms of key purposes, like using the word purpose, we changed to intent. Some people aren't very keen on that, so we might revisit that again at some point, but at least some folks have preferred a different word. We're also getting in some great feedback from Daniel Van Geest. They're coming through on the GitHub comments. We're working through some of those. We've already have some solutions put in place. We need to get agreement though from Dan on the authors. Some of the things are discussed is like if the primary certificate fails certification path validation, can you use the pointer to the secondary certificate? And if you do, you know, what security issues arise, and are there cases where you don't want to do that? So I think we need to work through those for each of the different intents. Also, we're working on example certificate generator. We think it'd be great if we had some working examples in the document itself that people can go and, you know, plug them into their tools to make sure everything's working right. We figured out the certs we want to generate and include as examples. We just need to finish writing the scripts. We made some good progress at the hackathon this weekend on that. All right, so the next steps that we have is resolve the remaining open issues from Dan. We also got some feedback or questions from Sarat on SPKI binding. It sounds like they were interested in potentially using some of the mechanisms in Chameleon to save storage space. So we're going to work through those to see if we can accommodate that with this draft and maybe potentially add this SPKI binding. We're going to plan on finishing the generation scripts, and we'll be pushing out a new version. And then hopefully a working group last call with a target before Vienna, if not sooner. Any questions, comments? I see Falco's in the queue.
Yep.
Yeah, so I must admit I haven't looked through the GitHub issues, but my question is about how you imagine the agility aspect brought in through this extension, because it's, as it says, it's just a discovery mechanism. So any idea of switching to a different certificate path, at least in a synchronous protocol, I don't see how this could be possible. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, so it might not be within the same operation, but so there's a couple different intents, but one is I have your encryption key certificate. I want your digital signature certificate. It's at some point that might be useful, so I can go and follow that pointer within the encryption key certificate, grab your signature certificate, and I'll be able to verify any signatures that you send along. That is one use case. Another one is you might have like your traditional RSA key certificate, and I want your MLDSA key certificate. Again, for potentially a future operation, I can go and follow the pointer and retrieve that.
Okay, these use cases I understand, but in the draft it says something about a server checking which certificate the client is using mostly, and this to me suggests that there's the idea that somehow in a synchronous protocol you can use the discovered certificates for an alternative, as an alternative in the same protocol run, and I don't think this is possible. I mean, I don't want to necessarily discuss this here in length, just maybe I can also follow up on the list, but this should be entirely clarified in the draft.
Okay.
Use cases, examples for the agility, and I'm only talking about the agility use case. So I think this needs more clarification. What do you imagine?
Okay. Yeah.
What is possible? What is not possible? Yeah. So this would be my suggestion.
Okay. Yeah, we'll take a look at that. I didn't think there was language that explicitly said that that's possible, but we can revisit.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? All right.
Thank you, Corey.
It's John. I was just gonna say, Corey and I got the first interoperable kind of beginnings. Corey mentioned the scripts that were written in that, but two completely different implementations actually work together. So anyway, positive stuff going on there. Just wanted to mention that because it was exciting whenever we get interop stuff happening, right? So anyway, thanks again, Corey, for presenting.
Yep.
Okay, in the lead up to this meeting, I have not heard from Henry. Is he here to talk about CAA? Okay, then we're going to skip that one too. Mike put into the chat that there will not be slides on CSR attestation at this meeting. We'll talk about when we're going to deal that. So we're going to move on to the composite chem documents.
All right, can you hear me?
I can.
And I have slide control. Okay, so the larger composite MLChem document authors have asked me just to add a slide into my presentation for the CMS composite chem, so I will be presenting both of them. First, just one update from composite MLChem. So the status. People might recall from LAMPS 124 IETF meeting that there was discussion between LAMPS and CFRG composite chem authors. That has been resolved, and the draft has been stable since then. The only thing that was waiting on was proof of security paper that was recently published, mentioned in the chat, published by Deirdre, Mike, Sophie, and Douglas. So they're going to update the draft with that. Fix a few more editorial issues. And I guess the question is working group last call already done now that this has been finished, or does anything else have to happen procedurally?
So we did a working group last call on the certificate one, but not the CMS one, I believe.
That is correct.
Okay, so that one we were waiting. The certificate one was waiting just on those proofs. Those are now available. I think the only thing you needed to do was update the reference to point to that new paper.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, they have that pending. So once that's done.
Okay, so that we can send to the ISG as soon as that reference is updated. And we can start a working group last call on the CMS document next week.
Yep, that's coming up in my next slides. So composite chem and MLChem and CMS update there. It's a very straightforward application of composite chems to CMS. We have effectively just taken RFC 9936 and changed MLChem to composite MLChem. Not 100% true, but it was a very straightforward, because it's a very straightforward draft, we could reuse a lot of the text from that RFC. What we've said is, because we need some algorithms for interop purposes, we're saying the KDF that must be supported just for interop purposes, you may use others, is HKDF with SHA-256, and then AES-256 wrap. Not AS-128 is not included in there because MLChem 512 doesn't have a composite, only MLChem 768 and 1024, so AS-256 matches. Victor, would you have a question?
Victor, if you're talking, we can't hear you.
I have to unmute the mic. That helps. All right. So for the certificate use case, presumably that's just for the identity key, right? Standardizing the format of the public key for a composite, right? You can't actually sign the certificate with MLChem, as far as I know.
That's correct.
Correct. It's just the SPKI.
Right, just the SPKI standardization. Fine. So moving right along, I've always complained about what I consider to be misguided attempts to align the security levels of each and every algorithm in every combination. So, previous RFCs have said that when you're using MLChem this, use a particular SHA variant, and when you're using a different MLChem, then use a correspondingly stronger or weaker SHA variant. I think all of that is a bad idea. We really should be specifying the components independently, and the strength that you get is the strength of the weakest component. Locking things down so that only certain combinations of components are valid, it just reduces interoperability and makes it harder for users to construct working configurations. So I would not like to see AS128 excluded here just because the chem is stronger.
It's not. So this is not saying that you must combine these algorithms together. It's just that an implementation must support them, basically be able to receive a chem blob in order to parse them for interoperability purposes. But the draft said, and this is actually, we're doing this because we kind of have to follow what's in RFC 9629 to say to get a minimum level of desired security, the levels must match. But we're not mandating that you have to use these algorithms. You may use other algorithms. Right.
It's just that, again, levels matching, bad idea. Let's specify all the other AS variants too. This is just pointless. You may disagree and ignore me, but my take is the interoperability should include AS128 and maybe even AS192, which isn't very popular, but there's no reason not to specify those.
So would you say the same about any other HKDF variants or just the AES one?
If we're including AES as the only, the required cipher, it should include multiple variants of AES. Regardless of which MLChem is the chosen chem. Again, subject to others, I might be in the rough. So, please ask on the list if you think I'm blowing smoke.
Okay, I will ask on the list.
Thanks.
Okay, next. So we do have to publish an update, resolve Victor's question here. There was some reference changes that had to get moved, and now that the Kyber CMS or Kyber certificates draft is published, we'll have to update the reference for that. And then that's it. We'll ask for a working group last call.
Yeah, I got confused by the previous comments. I agree that you should not, with the previous comment, that you should not mix, you should not match, try to keep the same security level. You should keep it simple, and then you get the security of the weakest algorithm. But then Victor said that you should support all AES variants, if I understood correctly. I would disagree with that. I think you should just pick AES 256 and then use that, if that makes things simpler.
So I'm taking a look at RFC 9629 right now, which is the chem recipient info. And in security considerations, it says the KDF should offer at least the security level of the chem. The choice of the key encryption algorithm and the size of the KK should be made based on the security level provided by the chem. The key encryption algorithm and the KEK should offer at least the security level of the chem. So we have just been following the considerations from there. But yes, it should. So we can say, okay, implement all this for interoperability. Scott?
Okay. There was the argument that we should support every single possible AES variant, and because of interoperability. I would disagree with that. That's exactly the wrong thing. Consider TLS 1.2 cipher suites. They're ridiculous. If we just do AES 2, for example, just do AES 256 everywhere, is that overkill? In many cases, yes. Who cares? It is cheap overkill. Thank you.
Thanks, Scott. Victor, you're back in the queue.
Yeah. So if there's just one particular variant of an algorithm, that's actually probably fine. But it's not because we need to keep everything in lockstep, right? My main objection is when we then specify, use this AES for this chem and a different AES for a different chem. Really, I far more object to attempts to lock down, separate components when multiple ones are possible, and we have to simultaneously make adjustments on the cipher side that match the chem side. If there's only one cipher, I'm fine with that. The rationale should not say in order to keep, whatever. It's because this is the required AES, and if you want to try a different one, you can. Not because right. So in other words, the restriction isn't that you have to keep them in sync. It's just that the only one that's required is AS256. That's okay. Right. It's more the reason than the outcome that I have a problem with.
Okay. So, I mean, it happens to be that the level matching that we do because of RC 9629 leaves us with one single encryption algorithm, one single KDF. Right. So we can remove that reason, and it sounds like you might be happy.
Yeah, I was just too late with, objecting to that other RC
Sure.
where I think there were mistakes made in its design, and I don't want to repeat them here. But we can certainly specify just one AES. That's okay. Okay, so I'll tweak it so that it removes the rationale, I believe, and then if we keep the same, people can do other ones. It's like I'll make that clear. Mm-hmm. But this is the default one for interop. Okay, if the queue is finished, then I am finished. But I'm presenting the next one, so I'll stay here.
Okay, but just want to capture that as soon as you get that out, we can do the working group last call.
Sounds good. Okay, I have control. So this is an update to the constantly renamed best practices for signed attributes in CMS signed data. Hopefully this is the most clear title so far. Also a short update. So since adoption, based on Russ's suggestion and discussion with Carl Wallace, added a new MIME data content type. And the best practices will say that any new uses of CMS signed data must not use the ID data type. New uses where the content type is MIME should use the MIME data type. Any biz documents for protocols which use CMS should deprecate ID data or provide rationale for not doing so. Updates that do keep ID data should specify that signed attributes is always required or always forbidden, just for consistency. And then recipients should perform the expected content, should perform verification of the expected content type and existence of signed attributes. There were some mitigations for what to do if you stay using ID data. That remains the same from the previous version of the draft. We updated the security considerations. Falco did, adding a use case for signing, or updating the case for signing and encryption. And then Falco pointed out that using signed attributes because you're doing a hash of the signed attributes loses the independence from the assumptions of collision resistance that we get in some more modern signature schemes like SLHDSA, LMS, and XMXS. So it's just something for people to be aware of. Added an ASN1 module and then added IANA considerations. So we have some very small updates to make, and then we believe the draft is ready for working group last call. So we will request it once we publish the next update. Victor?
Just a quick question. I've seen multiple implementations get confused between the fact that there's a message digest in the signed attributes that represents how the hash was derived, that's in there. And then again, with algorithms like RSA, there may be another digest that was actually used to sign it. And the two don't necessarily have to line up. And then problems ensue when, implementations get confused about which digest is which. And I'm wondering whether it's appropriate in this document or elsewhere to say something about don't use, SHA-256, in the signed attributes and then SHA-1 in the RSA signed signature, or vice versa, or any other, unexpected combination where the two really are very different. I don't know if that's appropriate in a document like this that's kind of clarifying use of signed attributes, or whether it's a whole separate issue. But I think it's at least a point where robustness might not be expected if you mix and match your digests at the two different layers.
I don't think it's a bad idea. Maybe Russ has an opinion.
Well, this is written at a higher level where it applies to all signature algorithms. It might be worth noting in security considerations that when RSA is used, that part of the data that is encrypted includes the void of the hash function, and that needs to match. But it doesn't affect the other recommendations that are in this document.
Indeed, it's a separate, kind of possibly helpful to implementers thought.
Would you, Victor, have suggested text for that?
Okay, yes, I stuck my neck out.
Thank you. Okay, that's it for me.
Okay, at this point, we've reached the end of the block of active documents, and we're moving on to several that are up for potential adoption. So the next one is from JP on attestation key EKU.
Hi, everyone. So I tried to reach adoption back in November, and we reached quite a bit of friction at that point. So I've come back. We've made quite a bit of changes since November, so we'll talk about that. What I'm looking for is a new key extended usage for attestation keys. This is a slight, a bit of a repeat of November. There are already attestation keys out there. There's already prior art. Most of them is TPMs and DICE. They already have used EKUs, but through research, it seems that these EKUs cannot be reused for the purpose that we need at this point. So after the meeting at IETF 124 in Montreal, a number of suggestions were offered. We're looking at the use of policies, use of a new critical extensions. We met with the authors. After considerations, we decided to narrow the scope of the draft. It looked like the way that the draft was written in the prior version, it was too prescriptive. And that's why I was introducing confusion as to the aim of the work. So instead, we've decided to let the CA make the decision as to the mixing of EKUs. At that point, we had said there can only be one EKU, and that was like difficult to police through like the EKUs or policies. So instead, we've introduced implication sections for the CA, the verify, the attesters, and the cryptographic modules. And that gives us the opportunity to point to the proper references. So the implications for the various roles. So basically, as far as the certificate authority is concerned, the CA must also ensure that the attester is the only entity that controls the key. So in the concept of attestation, there's a need of non-repudiation. And so we address that. For the verifier, they may reject the evidence if the X509 certificate does not contain the appropriate key purpose, the extended key usage that we're proposing. The implication for the attesters, and here, this is a bit of a controversy. An attestation key, the authors feel like it must be used by an attester to only digitally sign evidence. But it was raised in Montreal that we might want to create a CSR for that key, so this key might be used to sign something other than evidence. So we've put a should in here. And the implication for the cryptographic modules, obviously the modules need to provide the appropriate service, to accomplish the recommendation proposed in the spec. So we've updated the document. We're coming back. We would like to ask for adoption. We have a draft right now as far as the RATs, which is evidence encoding for HSMs, which would be dependent on this EKU. So the work is split between the two groups, as the EKUs are really a LAMP's concern, and the evidence encoding is really RAT's concern. So that's it for me. These are the pointers if you want to find the work. I'm ready to entertain questions.
Go ahead, Mike.
Hi. I got a chance to talk with JP for about an hour last week, and I actually think a draft like this is necessary. The problem with the current draft, from my point of view, is that it's heavily ratified as opposed to being PKIX. There are a number of things that are in there that are problematic when you're just trying to look at getting a key enrolled by a CSR, getting somebody who's looking at a certificate to do something useful with it. It's perfectly fine for RATs to say what they want to do on the RAT side, and it's perfectly fine for the CSR or for other things to do what they want to do with respect to that usage. It's probably not appropriate to go down one path in this document and that basically eliminates other paths. So there's a couple other things that are actually technical that need to be fixed, related to how you actually do attestation. Signatures are one way, but there's also proof by decryption, which is used in a couple of other systems. So I don't want to eliminate those, and I want to make sure that we don't prevent those from going in that space. And there's a bunch of other little things, but again, that's where I'm going with this.
Thank you. Mike?
I'll express my opinion on whether to RATs or not to RATs. The point about not overly RATsing, I think, was sustained on the CSR attest document. But this EKU document is attempting to register an EKU for the wire format that we're specifying in the RATs working group. Like, this is a subordinate document to a RATs working group document. So I don't understand the objection to RATsifying a thing that is subordinate to a RATs thing. Over.
I think Michael's got a reply.
Yeah, and I don't actually understand that. This is a document that is marking a certificate that says the certificate contains a key that can be used for attestations. Period. End of statement. It's not the key in this is a particular type of attestation. That's something different. And if you want to do that as an EKU associated with something you create over in RAT, perhaps. But this was supposed to be a more general purpose than at least that's the way I understood it the first time this came around. So
if making this EKU specific to the PKIX evidence ASN1 structure that we're defining in RATS would make the objections go away, we could consider doing that. I have to talk with my co-authors, but to me that would seem like a friendly suggestion.
what do you mean by that?
So if we say this EKU means that the attester will produce the PKIX evidence structure, see RATS document, rather than trying to say
no. Yeah.
In that case, you might as well just put the EKU as part of the RATS work, right?
No, but RATS doesn't issue EKUs, LAMPS does. That's why we have two documents. Like the EKU registry is owned by LAMPS. We have to do that here.
Okay.
That's what I thought we were doing. I thought we were just getting an EKU for our RATS thing. I didn't realize we were trying to boil the ocean.
Let's go with Victor.
Just a quick sanity check. This EKU is only for the identity certificate, right? It's not expected to appear in intermediate or root C.
That is correct. Yes.
Because I've already run into issues with DICE where they've specified various EKUs as mandatory in intermediate DICE certificates, and this is now causing real problems. So I want to make sure we don't run into that here.
Yes, they have 4 different EKUs, and they're used at various stage of the life cycle of the device. Yeah. That's why I'm trying to.
Thank you.
That's why I'm not trying to touch those at all. Yeah.
And so, Victor, make sure I understand you properly. Your suggestion is this should be only for EEs, not for CAs. Right?
Absolutely, yes. Otherwise, expect lots of problems and pain.
Great, wonderful feedback. Thank you.
Richard. Richard, we cannot hear
you. We're not hearing you.
Oh, sorry about that. You came to LAMPS because you wanted something in this particular OID arc. We don't care about OID arcs, right? It's just going to be a random string of bytes. Just do it all in RATS.
I don't think RATS has an OID arc. Do they?
Well, then do it in somebody's private enterprise network OID arc. I mean, really, they're opaque.
I think they could even do a coordination with us and get it in their document.
Yeah, just do it there. I mean, if this is designed for that, then just do it there and say, you send mail to, I don't know, it's Russ and Sean saying, I need an OID, and they'll give you one.
Okay, if we don't need a draft, and we can just get an EKU OID some easier way, that's cool. Awesome. Yeah.
Hank?
Does this mic? Yeah, okay. The other mic didn't work. Sorry, that took me to switch mic. Hey, this is Hank. I think Hannes said DICE works very differently. Now I'm putting my TCG co-chair hat on. There are a lot of TCG technologies. They all come with certificates. They work very differently. That's first of all correct. And they, some of them are for evidence generation. So the certificate identifies an attester. And the key usage is very specific. For example, evidence generation. That's an EKU. I have no idea why this is a problem. This is the right place. This is LAMPS. This is an EKU. It comes for certain certificates. We don't want to be ambiguous here. It's in the right domain. what is the exact problem that you have with this being an EKU in LAMPS? I'm looking at the chat and I'm listening.
As I'm understanding it from this discussion, Mike and others want a different attestation key EKU for each type of attestation type. Am I misreading that? Because you already have one for TCG, for the TPM. You want one for the RAT stuff that's coming over here. And then there may be something else coming along. I don't know.
That is normally how EKUs work, right? One protocol, one EKU. You don't want an EKU that
No.
lets you sign a bajillion open-ended protocols?
That's right.
So close, yes.
Most EKUs are tied to a protocol or to a context.
Yeah, and the context I'm thinking of is certificate, but
It's
yeah,
always
okay. Yeah, the attestation stuff isn't a protocol. It's a data format.
Right.
Okay, I don't have any problem with you guys going off and doing this over in the RATS thing and call this RATS attestation key EKU. And make sure that it doesn't look like a generic thing. So I will, but I don't think it's a LAMPS thing. So yeah, no.
Yeah, I think that's a friendly suggestion, because the idea of one EKU that covers an open-ended set of possible data formats was giving me the cross-protocol vibes, heebie-jeebies to begin with. So, yeah.
Hank? You're still in the queue. Honest.
Yeah, I said in the chat, I'm wondering, like, why do we need to move this over to RATS? Because it seems like, again, one of those documents where you get shuffled around between different working groups. No, it doesn't fit here, and then the RATS group says, "Oh, but this is more LAMPS because it's this extended key usage." That's a LAMPS topic, and then we get sent back and forth for such a totally simple thing.
It is simple, Hannes, but I think putting the format in the EKU that goes with that format in the same document will help implementers.
Fair.
Okay. So you think RATS is the right place to do that?
Yeah, just work with the designated experts to get your OID in the right arc, and you're done.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, I'm making the next presentation because Stefan is on a train. And he thought it would be bad if he lost connectivity in the middle of the presentation. So this work is in the middle of a call for adoption, and we'd just like to give you a quick update on what changed before we asked for that call. The basic characteristic is that this is designed to sign one document. The key pair is generated, a certificate is issued, the document is signed, and the private key is destroyed. The certificate never expires, basically because the idea is the certificate can be validated at any time. Since there's no way the key can be lost or stolen, we're saying no revocation, and it's bound to one and only one signature, as you can even put the hash of the thing that was signed in the certificate itself if you want to do like the two-way binding. So basically, we have the certificate extension that provides that binding. We don't think it should ever be critical, but I suppose someone could do that if they were like being really, really crazy about it. The binding type, which is there, gives you an idea about what kind of thing you expect it was signed. Is it a KDES or an XKDES or JWS or a COSI? And so the document currently defines several of these and creates a registry so that new things can be added to the binding type in the future if that turns out to need additional formats. So since the last IETF, we dealt with some of the nits that were pointed out on the list. We added the security considerations. We added the IANA considerations. The one thing that has come up and not been resolved, and I'd like to start this discussion here, is we never found a really good use for the X509 extension that already exists called private key usage period. And given that we know when the key is being generated, we know when it's used, and we know when it's destroyed, we could put this private key usage period into the certificate, and it may actually help someone who's using this in conjunction with a timestamp authority. Just a thought, not really hard over on it, just kind of thought maybe this is something we can leverage. It already exists and seems to make sense in this context. So the call for adoption started on the 13th. I'm sorry, ended on the 13th. I think Tim's going to say something about that. And then we're going to republish this as a LAMPS draft, resolve open issues, and add examples. Go ahead, Tim.
Yep, the success of the adoption call was announced on the list this morning, I believe.
Ah, okay. So, lots of moving parts. All right. Any questions about the intents that we have going forward? Go ahead, Victor.
Right. So I'm slightly puzzled, though I understand the desire to have it never expire. In practice, the effective expiration date then becomes the expiration date of the issuing CA, right? So in some sense, you know, if we're still verifying the certificate, it actually does have an expiration date. It's the expiration date of the validity of the issuer. So, you know, what are we gaining by just not saying, well, the issuer should just set the expiration date to be the same as their own certificate, and then we don't have to do anything special? You know, is there a difference here between lining up the expiration of the cert with the expiration of the issuing authority and lining it up to year 9999?
Right. You're right. I guess that's something we can look at in the next draft. I'll write that down as something to discuss with Stefan, who is in the chat but is not on voice. So we'll discuss that one. Thank you.
Unless the hint really is a hint to the verifier to kind of store the fact that the certificate was verified, you know, initially, and, you know, with their own signature, and then remember that indefinitely, so long as they believe their key is secure. You know, that kind of information is sometimes relevant. I don't know if it's, you know, in scope here, but otherwise, yeah, I'm still a little puzzled as to what all of this really means. Anyway, that's all for now.
Sean.
Hey, so with respect to this private key usage period, It wasn't 3280. It got taken out of 5280 and 3280. It's like, don't put it in. Like, let it just be dead. I think it's dead and gone and went away. I think resurrecting it is probably going to confuse people. Maybe people wrote some code and took it out. I just like, maybe we just find another way to do it if we really need the functionality, or figure something else out.
Well, it is still in X509.
Lots of stuff is in X509.
Julian.
Hi, thank you. Here's Guilin from Huawei International. I would like to know the content. The content is basically the fixed one, or it could be has a kind of flexibility for one such certificate.
So you're talking about this?
Yeah, probably, because basically it means, okay, this is a certificate just to sign one document. So
That's correct.
Have some content information. So I mean that whether this content information can fix the document to be signed, or just a type of document.
So you have the document in hand at the time you generate the key that you're going to then get certified, sign, and destroy. So that's the idea, is that it's a single signature key. And so basically the next layer up could be a CA that's operating for just that user, or it could be a local RA that's running in conjunction with the CA that's remote.
Okay.
So you know what's being signed at the time the key is generated.
Okay. I also have a comment about the validity of the private key. I think it's better still to make it valid for some time. It's not that long as the expiry of the public key. Yeah, either it is unlimited or just the same expiry the day as the CA. Because otherwise, in some cases, probably even such a certificate is issued, but the signer maybe never signs this document. For example, in some situation, he just changed his mind. But if the private key validity is very long, so sometime later, the private key compromised, so someone else can actually sign the document on behalf of the signer. So
I think you convinced me that Sean's right. We shouldn't do this.
yeah, doesn't matter. Yeah, I think so. One more comment is that it may be better if you can give some more concrete example, like any kind of the particular service or even application is using this stuff. I do not know too much of the application for one. This will be like a one-time signature certificate. Yeah.
So basically, this is being used in several places in Europe already, where this is being used in conjunction with an archive service, but that way they're signing it and then archiving it right away. And so Stefan is actually involved in one of those implementations.
Okay, I will check more as well. Yeah, thanks.
Okay.
Interesting work. Thank you.
John.
Hi. Yeah, I've over the years come across use cases where like one lifetime certs or whatever. But my comment was regarding, again, private key usage period. So you're saying that shouldn't be used, and then I looked through stuff and I found usages of it. But anyway, that's good to know. And then the second comment, the lifetime of the CA. So if a CA key rolls and you have link certs, or I guess the old with new, new with old, where you rekey, is it not possible to have a CA extend its lifetime? And if it is, then that could be a reason why you keep your.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I wanted to talk
infinite.
to Stefan, since he's actually doing code about this. I didn't want to suggest we were going one way and not talk to him.
Okay,
Corey,
yeah,
you look like you want to say something on that topic.
Yeah, I think John actually stole my thunder on that one. I mean, Yeah, a CA certificate can be renewed. You can recertify that CA's key. So I think any language that's added to the draft that, you know, constrains the validity period of the entity certificate is going to end up being overly prescriptive in some situations. So I think just leaving it with the evergreen, you know, not after 999, you know, blah, 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 I think is, you know, the easiest thing to do.
Yeah, like we had a case for supporting 1 minute lifetime certs at one point, and the same thing in there. It ended up having like a time period of like, you know, the same thing, whatever the no date period that you had there. It was the same thing because, yeah. So this is very similar to that use case that we seen multiple years ago. So
Okay,
it's good that you're doing this now.
great. All right, yes, Victor.
Just want to point out that in practice, I rarely see CA keys extended. You know, in the majority of cases, the CA just issues a new key and goes with that. In part because, you know, older intermediate certs and so on tend to get cached, and then you're never sure which key the verifier will, or which certificate from the CA the verifier will have on hand when checking the validity. The extension and changing the dates is very fragile. So don't have unreasonable expectations about that working reliably, you know.
Okay, the queue is empty, so we're going to go to the next slide. Valerie, you want to talk about Photochem certificates?
Hello. No slides yet. Oh, okay. So I'm Valery Smyslov. I'll talk about Photochem in certificates. So next slide. I have a clicker. Okay, seems to work. So Photochem is lattice-based, unstructured lattice-based chem that is considered as a fairly conservative design, and it is being standardized currently, as far as I know, and I saw. I don't know the status of this standardization process. And also there is some interest in using Photochem in internet protocols. So, and it seems natural if chem is used in internet protocol to have a specification how it is specified in certificates. So that's the gap that we already have. And so this draft tries to fill this gap. So there is currently no specification for how it is represented in X509 certificates, but OIDs are already allocated by somebody, it's not by me. And there is no SN.1 model. So what's in this draft? It's first of all, its document structure mode of the text was impudently stealed from the draft LAMP Kyber certificate. So many thanks to its authors, to Sean, Panos, Jake, and Buzz. So I just use the text and modified it in accordance to Photochem specific. So OIDs were already allocated, so I just use them. And the structure of public and private keys is very simple. It's just octet string with no funny things like, for example, in Kyber with seed choice between seed and expanded keys and so on. So there's a definition of SN.1 model, and there's no examples. I don't know currently whether it is no examples yet or permanently, because actually there is very simple SN.1 wrapping, and if there are any examples, that it is just must be an example of Photochem itself that must come from more authoritative source So I see no point to just copy paste some official examples if they exist and just add a few bytes wrapping, ISO.1 wrapping. So there is one issue that I'm concerned with. So actually there are OIDs allocated for both eFrodocam and Frodocam versions. You know that originally Frodocam was specified in, I don't know, in specifications it was in the NIST competition, and then one attack was found, a multi-target attack that decreases its security levels, and also authors quickly updated the initial specification, and so they keep naming it Frodocam, and the old specification that is vulnerable to multi-target attack is renamed to eFrodocam, with a comment that eFrodocam is still secure if private key is used less than 125 times. So actually it is one-time certificate, like one signature certificate in previous presentation. But if one-time certificates make sense, I'm not sure that for the CAM certificate it makes sense. I don't know. But since OIDs are already allocated, so the currently draft contains both Frodocam as a secure version for any number of private keys used, and eFrodocam, which is only secure if private keys used less than 258 times. So I don't know whether it makes sense or doesn't make sense, or perhaps it is not. It's better just get rid of eFrodocam for certificates. It's a question, or just keep them because perhaps somebody needed. So currently they're in the draft. So actually that's all. So any comments? And I don't know. Perhaps it's a good idea to adopt the draft. What do you think?
Okay, Scott Fleur, Cisco Systems. About eFrodocam, I believe the performance delta between eFrodo and Frodo is small. There is no real reason for eFrodo to exist. I would just drop it like a hot potato. Thank you very much.
Yes, but it's my concern. Just because OIDs exist, I include it into the draft. I agree with you that it makes very little sense to use it. We can remove it. We can remove eFrodocam.
So we have a charter issue with Frodocam. The LAMPS charter says that we can adopt PQ algorithms in our documents that are either approved by NIST or vetted by the CFRG. And as best I can tell, there was a Frodocam document in the CFRG that has stalled and is about to expire. If they don't publish it, I'm not sure we can.
So you suggest to wait for or to perhaps.
Well, I mean, we've done other times, had documents ready to go so that as soon as the other body approved it, we were ready to publish it, immediately. And I'm certainly willing to do that. But do you know whether the CFRG is going to move forward with their Frodocam document? And aren't you going to face the same thing in IPsec?
Okay. So we should wait.
Okay.
For them.
Okay, so I have two comments. The first one is that for the eFreedom, so we once actually aligned with the authors of the CFRG FRIDO draft. So basically, FRIDO is mainly for compatibility because some applications already use the version of FRIDO. So in that case, I actually prefer maybe it's better to just include FRIDO as well in Valeri's draft. That's one. Second comment is that I'm not sure whether you're also including the version for 512 here, because 512 variants is actually not including the ISO standardization. So maybe
because
just move them.
OIDs existed.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, Valerie. I have a couple of questions. I see IPsec working group has recently adapted the FredoChem for key exchange, but I don't see any discussion with regard to using that for as certificate. So, could you elaborate on the use case for that and what is the plan for that?
I think that using FredoChem as IPsec is independent from using it in LAMPS, because in IPsec it is used only for ephemeral key exchange. We don't use certificates. So it's just orthogonal problems. So actually, it's this draft is only tried to fill a gap because we haven't existed OIDs and don't have a document that defines how FredoChem should be represented in certificates if somebody needs it. But IPsec draft doesn't need FredoChem.
Yeah, I was just wondering which protocols you plan to use it. That
to be frank, I don't know. So this draft just, well, I don't know other applications, but perhaps, for example, CAM-based authentication can be, there is another draft for CAM-based authentication in IPsec working group, and this draft can use certificates for FredoChem is CAM that is used for authentication is FredoChem.
Yeah, because CAM-based authentication did not go well within TLS, so that was my underlying question. But thanks for the clarification.
Perhaps, but TLS is not IQ2. TLS is more rigid, and people do not want to change it.
Thanks.
I don't know. It is not yet adopted in IPsec yet too, but still there is some interest.
Thanks.
Go ahead, Deirdre.
If the FredoChem document in CFRG were a little further along, I would be cool with this. I actually have some suggestions that I want to provide to the FredoChem spec in CFRG that would need to be reflected in this document because it would be encoding keys and formats and things like that. So kind of whatever Russ said.
So you can make some effort for this document to process in CFRG.
Daniel, so to answer Tiro's question, it looks like the next presentation is going to be FredoChem in CMS. So there's a use case for you.
Yes.
Okay, it looks like the queue is empty. Thank you. I think we're gonna put this a little bit on hold until we can see a document come out of the CFRG. I suspect we're gonna end up in the same spot with this next one, but let's. Mei Ling, are you ready?
Okay. This is also Fredo KM in the crypto fake message text. The same background with various draft. So I also added a page here is for the background and the motivation here. So it has an overlap. So I have go very simple for that. The goal of this draft is to define a clear specification for using 8 various Fredo KM. In various, they said if Fredo maybe not necessary, so I will keep them with the various in certificate. And the second is to leverage the KM reception infrastructure from RPC 9624 for seamless integration into the existing CMS framework. So the core mechanism is to use the KM reception infrastructure here. We have the conventions for Fredo KM here. So one of the 8 Fredo KM OIDs has already defined. And also we defined the KDM here, and they must support this ID algorithm HKDF with SHA 256. And also we use the wrap algorithm here. They must support for Fredo KM 976 for the security of 182 bits, and also support for KM 11314 for the security of 256. So that's the security strengthening alignment here. On this more details about the 8 Fredo KM rights covered in my draft. Okay, and the OIDs is already defined. So we have to see that we are to vary a similar draft with various lamps, and we also have some contents borrowed from the other CMS drafts already in the working group. So this a very simple summary here is this draft try to provide a solution, offers a clear specification for the using of Fredo KM in CMS, and the reuse the existing framework built on the RFC 19629 and defines the clear parameters in the KDF and the keyword algorithms for the interoperabilities. And also we establishes the identifiers for the 8 specific Fredo KML rights. And but now I'm not sure in labs it is variable for this work to go on, and we need us to feedback to make this draft go on or not. Thank you. Any question? No.
I have one. A standard objection to strict alignment. If you're going to support both AES variants, they should be supported for both of the CAM sizes, regardless of which combination the user picks. If you want AES 256, it should be the only one. If you want both AES 192 and 256, it should be usable with all the CAM sizes.
Yeah, we want to use both.
Don't drop the alignment requirements is my recommendation.
Okay.
Now. Okay, Scaffolding Cisco Systems. I repeat what I said over to Valerie. There is no real reason to support eFrodo. Again, it is asking for people to basically, if they misuse it and use it too much, become a security weakness, and there is no meaningful performance difference. So there is no real reason to support it at all.
Okay, got the idea.
As long as we're repeating the discussion of the previous thing, can Russ, you please mention the charter issue again?
Sure. We can only do work on documents that are standardized by NIST or vetted by the CFRG. So this would be blocked until the CFRG publishes their document.
Got it. Thank you.
I suggest that Mei Ling and Valerie, and Gulen, they may want to go volunteer to help finish off the CFRG document.
Got it.
So this is probably a red letter day in that the LAMPS group has finished their charter with time to spare, or their agenda with time to spare, perhaps because one of the presentations dropped out. But
Russ, that presentation is back in. You're back in the game.
You have slides now, huh?
Of course.
Okay. Well, does Tim have them?
I'm looking.
And Mike is going to
present. I probably have to go approve them. 1 second.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then you have to
Russ,
push them to meet Echo.
Yeah, Russ, if you can try, it's going to take me long enough that it won't be done. Oh, wait, excuse me. I just need to do something. Sorry, it's too late for me to think. Yeah, this is going to take me a while.
Okay, Tim, I just approved them, so you should be able to just do the reload thing.
Thank you. Yep.
Okay, Hannes, you're doing the presentation?
I was actually Mike.
Oh, thanks. All right, well, we have like 6 minutes, so let's hit the down arrow really quickly. I have down arrow control. Great. Okay, so this working group's probably mostly aware that a design team was formed and dissolved since we met last time. Thanks in particular to Carl Wallace, Steve Hanna, and Tim Polk for hearing us out and giving us their wisdom. We have merged almost all of the changes recommended by the design team, which was extremely helpful. We have a few open issues, so we're still not done design. Version 22 is mostly just the incorporated changes, editorial edits, author info updates, minor AS&1, minor terminology. We have some bigger points that we are still working on, and we have a few open pull requests. In particular, this slide goes back to Hannes to explain, I think, why you disagree.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's actually a small one. So this PR is we battled through, but it's only this small change. So Mike St. John's can also speak up on that. It's more about the meaning of capitalized ROC 2119 terminology. So here, as you can see, the first May certification authorities issuing certificates to PKI and entities may require a certificate signing request CSR to include blah, blah, blah attestation. I was under the impression that, or at least my use of capitalized may, well, should and must, means that I can actually test something. I can actually verify something. And here it's all outside the protocol. And so Mike St. John's thought otherwise, and so we are a little bit sort of like in a disagreement here. But it's in some sense really a small issue compared to all other issues we've had so far and still have.
Okay, I'm going to continue. The next big open point. We have 3 minutes, Mike. The next big open point is about attribute. So the design team suggested that we resolve the hint thing by importing the attribute definition from CMS, which certainly solves the problem, but it may oversolve the problem in that it may introduce more complexity than the problem really warranted. So this is whether elevating this to a full-blown CMS attribute is actually worth the complexity is a thing we need to chew on. We have also this PR from Mike St. John's. This one is making ASN1 changes that I think the authors, this was only submitted like last week or the week before, so the authors haven't had a chance to iterate on this, on the ASN1 changes, so this requires more discussion. And so the summary here is design work continues, not resolved. We're not at the working group last call we were hoping we were, but here we are. It's going. It's moving. The design team that you formed, Russ, did help us and resolved some of the stalemates, so this is great. We are unblocked.
Okay, the ASN one has to be changed in some way because it doesn't compile the way it is.
Cool. I can't claim to have looked at the pull request yet.
Okay. I mean, there's more than one way to fix it, but it needs fixed. All right.
Great. Good. Thank you.
Mike, is your comment less than 1 minute?
Yeah, it's the change that I made to the ASN1 was basically reducing it back to a type identifier like we started with way back when. And that was mostly what we ended up on the last iteration of the list. I think Rich Saltz was there and a couple other folks. So if we can close that one out, the May, I don't care. I think it's actually a capital May, but Hans says no, and he can, who edits last wins. I said, just go ahead and do that.
All right, so we might be converging on consensus, and that would be glorious.
Well, let's see.
Great. Over.
All right. Well, we are out of time, and we're also out of agenda. So thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of your day.